The signature on my closing papers had barely dried when Beverly Drummond appeared at my front door, carrying a clipboard, a laminated rulebook, and the kind of smile that comes from years of never hearing the word no. I had owned the property for less than a day, and before breakfast the following morning, she was already explaining how she planned to take it away from me. Not sue me, not negotiate with me. Take it. She shoved a thick packet into my hands and informed me that I owed $1,400 in HOA fines for violations that supposedly existed before I had even unpacked a single box. According to her list, my gravel driveway was unacceptable, my garage color had not been approved, and my pickup truck was parked incorrectly. Then she stared straight at me and said, "This house isn't really yours. We decide what happens here. Follow the rules, or we'll take it by force." That was her first mistake. My name is Garrett Flint. I've spent 3 decades working as a framing carpenter, and construction teaches you valuable skills. You learn how to read plans, measure twice, and recognize a scam the moment you see one. After my divorce earlier that year, I wanted a fresh start. Nothing fancy. Just a little land, a detached garage, and enough room for my golden retriever, Brick, to run around like he was helping with the mortgage payments. I found exactly that in Dunmore Hollow, roughly 40 minutes east of Columbus. The area had gravel roads, with smoke drifting to the morning air and a faint rumble of diesel engines coming off County Road 14. It was the kind of place where the tension left your shoulders the second you stepped out of the truck. The property sat on 1.25 acres, but the feature I care about most wasn't the house. It was the paperwork. The lot had its own parcel number and sat completely outside the jurisdiction of the neighboring subdivision's HOA. That subdivision, Dunmore Hollow Estates, was filled with identical beige homes, matching mailboxes, and an association that acted like it had authority over every living thing in the county. My property had existed long before the subdivision was built. The deed traced ownership back to 1948. My realtor verified it. The county recorder verified it. Every document said the same thing. I was not part of the HOA. Beverly, however, had served as HOA president for years. She was known as the kind of person who issued citations over mailbox paint, patio furniture placement, and the precise color of a garden hose. So when I calmly explained, "I'm not in your HOA," she responded with a tiny, lifeless smile. "That's what you think," she said. Then she climbed into her silver Lexus and drove away like a general heading off to war. At first, I assumed paperwork would settle everything. I had my realtor pull the plat maps in CC and RS again. I mailed Beverly a polite certified letter containing copies of every relevant document, clearly explaining that my parcel was excluded from the association. I expected that to end the matter. It didn't. 3 days later, she filed a county complaint claiming my gravel driveway was causing stormwater runoff onto HOA property. It wasn't. The county issued a routine inspection notice, but Beverly somehow photographed the envelope sitting in my mailbox and posted the image in the subdivision Facebook group as if I were contaminating the neighborhood. That was when Dorothy Speck entered the story. Dorothy was a retired postal carrier who lived just outside the HOA boundary and seemed to know every piece of local history ever recorded. She showed up at my front door carrying a casserole dish and said, "Honey, Beverly's been running that neighborhood like her personal kingdom for 15 years. Then she started listing victims. One family practically forced out over a basketball hoop. A young couple endlessly harassed because of a fence. A homeowner fined for planting sunflowers. That was the moment I stopped treating Beverly like an annoyance and started viewing her as a serious problem. I bought a new legal pad and divided every page into 2 columns. Her move, my response. I hired a civil engineer to evaluate the driveway. His report confirmed exactly what I already knew. The runoff drained toward the county easement, not toward the subdivision. The county inspector arrived, found no violation, and closed the complaint. Meanwhile, I was renovating the detached garage. New electrical service. New overhead doors. Fresh concrete apron. Every permit was properly filed. I've worked construction too long to ever hand an enemy free ammunition through unpermitted work. It didn't matter. Beverly somehow managed to trigger a stop work order by claiming the concrete apron violated setback requirements. It didn't. I measured myself in the middle of a July heat wave, while bricks stretched out in the shade like a lazy foreman, refusing to supervise. 14 feet, 2 inches. Still, I hired a licensed surveyor. The certified survey confirmed complete compliance. 2 days later, the county withdrew the stop work order. Then came the lawyer letter. Roger Phelps, a local attorney, claimed that because my property supposedly benefited from subdivision infrastructure, a court might eventually decide that my land fell under HOA authority. The construction trades teach you to read every word carefully. Might is not will. A theory is not a law. My property had independent access to County Road 14, independent ownership, independent parcel records, independent deed. Dorothy, naturally, knew exactly who I needed to call next. Stacia Briner, a land use attorney with a reputation for being sharp enough to cut steel. I brought everything to her office. The letters, the survey, the engineer's report, the county notices, even the trail camera footage I had started collecting after hearing tires crunching over gravel outside my house late at night. She reviewed every page, leaned back in her chair, and finally looked up. "This is a bluff," she said. 10 days later, Beverly escalated again. A new letter arrived claiming the HOA could force my property into the subdivision through annexation and equitable servitude arguments. And if I refused to comply, they would pursue a forced sale of my property. That single word, force, changed my entire approach. Up until then, I'd been responding. After that, I started investigating. I dug through county archives, nonprofit registrations, amendment filings, parcel records, and ownership histories. Night after night, I sat at my kitchen table with a yellow highlighter in one hand, cold coffee in the other, while bricks slept at my feet. Then I found the detail that blew the whole case apart. The HOA didn't legally exist. 8 months earlier, the Ohio Secretary of State had administratively dissolved Dunmore Hollow Estate's HOA for failing to submit its required nonprofit filings. Dissolved, finished, legally dead. That meant no authority to sue, collect fines, enforce regulations, issue penalties, or operate as if it were still an active organization. The next morning I called Stacia. She checked the records herself. There was a long silence. Then she said, "Well, that changes everything." Every fine Beverly had issued after the dissolution date suddenly became questionable. Every threatening letter sent under the HOA's name became a liability. For months, the entire operation had continued functioning, even though the legal entity behind it no longer existed. That was the real secret. Beverly wasn't powerful. She was betting nobody would ever verify her claims. Stacia advised patience. "Don't swing yet," she told me. "Give her room to make one more mistake. Then we make it count." So I built a trap. I parked a utility trailer in my side yard and covered it with a tarp. It was fully registered, completely legal, entirely mine. But from a distance, it looked suspicious enough to attract the attention of any HOA dictator searching for a new target. For days later, my security camera sent a motion alert at 6:22 in the morning. There was Beverly, sneaking along the fence line, taking pictures of my property like a detective who had watched too many crime shows. The following afternoon, another certified letter arrived from Roger Phelps. This one complained about my supposedly unauthorized recreational vehicle. Perfect. Straight into the evidence folder. Next, I printed simple one-page flyers containing nothing except public records showing the HOA's dissolution. No accusations. No opinions. Just facts. Then I walked the subdivision, placing them at homes one by one. Brick accompanied me the entire way, trotting beside me like a furry process server delivering legal notices. By Monday morning, Stacia's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Residents were suddenly asking uncomfortable questions. Had the fines they paid actually been valid? Where had the money gone? Who had authority to collect it? That was when Beverly began losing control. She exploded on Facebook, calling the flyers harassment and insisting the dissolution was merely a paperwork issue. Then she made a serious mistake. She posted a fake HOA lien notice on my front door claiming I owed nearly $5,000 in violations. The same day, she contacted my employer while pretending to be a county official. My project manager called me immediately. The business phone line recorded every conversation. Clear impersonation. Clear fraud. That night, I filed a report with the sheriff's office. I brought copies of everything organized by date, category, and incident. The deputy reviewed the stack, closed his notebook, and looked at me. Someone's about to have a very bad month, he said. Meanwhile, Beverly had already petitioned the county commissioners to force my parcel into the HOA. A public hearing was scheduled. Public record. Public audience. By the time the hearing began, half the neighborhood had shown up. Dorothy sat in the front row wearing a blazer that looked specifically selected for witnessing the destruction of an enemy. Beverly sat at the petitioner's table looking polished, confident, and completely certain she would win. She spoke first. Property values, community standards, neighborhood appearance, the usual carefully packaged talking points. Then Stacia stood up. 5 minutes. That's all she needed. She presented the deed history, the parcel records, the independent county road access. Then she placed the dissolution certificate on the table. Right after that came documentation regarding the fraudulent lien and the impersonation allegations. The room became completely silent. One commissioner lowered his glasses and looked directly at Beverly. "Ma'am," he asked, "were you aware your organization was administratively dissolved?" And Beverly, I'll never forget it, actually replied, "That is a paperwork technicality currently being addressed." The petition was denied immediately. Right there, on the record, the commissioner stated there was no lawful basis to annex my property into an entity that no longer legally existed. Someone in the audience started clapping. Then several others joined in. I didn't. I simply sat there feeling months of pressure slowly leave my shoulders. Dorothy didn't clap either. She just looked at Beverly and smiled with a kind of satisfaction that only comes after waiting years to see justice arrive. After that, everything unraveled quickly. The fraudulent lien was removed. Phelps quietly backed away. Homeowners started demanding answers and requesting refunds. When Beverly ran again for HOA president under a newly reorganized board, she received exactly 4 votes. 4. After 15 years of acting untouchable, that was all she had left. As for me, I never joined the rebuilt HOA. My parcel remained separate, exactly as it had always been. But later on, I did help some of the decent neighbors clean up the detention pond. Once Beverly's control disappeared, the entire community felt different. And that's the lesson that stayed with me. Most people think power is loud. Threats, legal jargon, official-looking documents. Someone standing on your porch claiming they own your future. But fake authority survives because nobody questions it. Nobody checks the records. Nobody reads a deed. Nobody pulls the filings. Nobody asks one more question. The moment somebody does, a lot of bullies discover they're standing on cardboard foundations. My driveway is still gravel, by the way, and it's staying gravel. Every time I turn into it, I remember Beverly standing on my porch promising she'd take my house by force. Then I laugh, because in the end, the only thing she actually took was her own little kingdom, and she destroyed it herself.